Hey everybody. So today I wanted to quickly go over Gemini Notebook, also known as Notebook LM. This is a great tool for creating a library of information, and then eventually you can actually have AI create certain pieces of or lesson plans. You can have it write letters for you. What I really like is it actually can create materials for your lessons, and that's what we're going to try to do today. We're going to take a lower level task unit or lesson and then see how well Gemini Notebook expands on our thinking and our lesson plan to make it a little bit more rigorous for our students. Some of the suggestions we may like, others we may not. So again, this is all about Gemini Notebook or Notebook LM, and it's going to be available in your waffle over here. If you scroll down, it's actually now going to be right here, and it's actually still labeled Notebook LM, but eventually they'll probably switch to Gemini LM. So to begin, you're going to want to create a notebook, and it's really simple to actually upload your materials. You just go over here, you're going to give it a title. But what I want to do is I actually collected a bunch of materials for grade 5 mathematics. I have the standards ready to go. I want the entire grade in there so that I can keep coming back to this notebook. And then I also can upload materials as we go later on. For today, we're just going to focus on one lesson. So I'm going to go over and I have a folder. So in my folder, I'm just going to go in and I'll actually show you all the materials I have. So right here, this is the folder. You have uh, all of the standards. These are on Atlas. I have a building thinking classroom guide that I think might be helpful for the notebook to kind of work off of, as well as a high quality instruction material guide. So if I load this up really quickly, you're going to see it's just a breakdown of what high quality instruction is, or really what's more important, of what type of materials we want this AI bot to basically create for us. And then this is going to be my less rigorous um, lesson, and it is very straightforward. It has a little guide, but we're going to be focusing on multiplication and has a couple examples of what we're going to do. So the teacher instruction going into basically I do, we do, you do. But it's going to expand. And of course, it looks like we have a little worksheet at the end that a student's going to be doing. But it's a lot of independent work for the majority of this 20-minute lesson. So I'm going to go to my folder. I'll just drag all of these documents. Now you have up to 100 different documents. It doesn't matter the size, which is amazing. If you've used Gemini, you know there's a limit of 10 documents, and sometimes if the size is too big, it will actually get kicked out. So this is actually becoming a better tool for creating. Gemini gems are fantastic when it comes to the same task over and over again. And what we have seen is this Notebook LM feature is a lot better for harvesting a lot of information and simplifying it. And you can see right now on the right, you're going to have a couple different breakdowns. You can have an audio review. So what I would use if there's a lot of research that I want to learn about, I actually put those research, either one or multiple articles into a different notebook, and then I'm able to listen to a 20-minute podcast, and it gives me a great breakdown. If you wanted a slide deck of material, so I actually might ask for a slide deck to present this to the class, and that would come up with a really creative PowerPoint for my students to look at. Might not fit every lesson. Obviously, for this one, it's not as useful. And then, of course, you have quiz, infographics, reports, all these different tools. So let's get started. So we've uploaded, everything's ready to go. Sometimes you put a different document that takes a while. You're going to see it loading over here. So you don't want to start anything until those things are created. Now, a couple of things before we get going. One, if you make a Gemini notebook, you're going to want to make sure that if you're sharing it out, people can chat with the information you put in there, but they're not going to be able to create resources that go into the studio part. That is completely separate from the chat when you share it out. If you allow someone to be an editor, then they have access to the studio. And what the studio does is it becomes like an area where a lot of different things are created and you can always go back to them. So if I wanted to come in here and have a discussion with the AI bot, I'm going to be focusing on enhancing this lesson. So I actually have something written out. Okay, so I'm to put this over here to analyze my uploaded document low rigor lesson baseline using the district rigor rubric. The DOK level is currently very operating at was specifically how much keeping it from reaching the level 3 to 4. I also wanted to review the high quality instruction material guide. So these So really what it's going to do is it's taking in the knowledge base. The building thinking classroom is going to be something that it can work off of, but you also can hear that talk because not every lesson is going to be perfect for building thinking classroom. So you might actually want to talk to it sometimes and be like, okay, let's remove building thinking classroom from this. So now we have a ton of information getting thrown at us. It may match what we want, but now, of course, you're going to use that teacher eye to make sure this is something that we can do in a classroom. So let's review. Right off the bat, you can see it's breaking down what it is. So it's recall, skill, concepts. So we're at the OK level 1 and 2. And then it's going to give me how we can get to that level 3, level 4. So we need critical thinking. We need student-led learning, open-ended decision making, and critiquing and justification. So students need to be taking ownership of their learning. So these are great tips. I go down here. And of course, you could see over here, it's actually hyperlinking what I've already have. So these are the resources that are over here, which is great when you have a ton of resources embedded into your notebook. It's going to tell you exactly where it's getting these thinking. So for the BTC source, it's non-thinking classroom routines, task sequences, workspace and grouping, and then answering questions for the wrap-up phase. So instead of how do a student do a worksheet, maybe you have something like this. And then your suggestion to elevate this lesson, the BTC. So it's going to have us indeed being problem solving tasks orally, or we're going to be doing visible brain in groups, having students work on a non-permanent surface like a whiteboard. So they're getting up, they're moving, they're interacting with their peers. So that's one way we can do this. Obviously, if you're used to BTC, this is going to be something that you're pretty common. You do have to set those parameters with your class beforehand. But these are great ideas. I'm going to be pushing now a little bit back against AI to kind of give me something a little more creative. So we're going to go into the chat and kind of see what else it can do or create. And I actually wanted to build mere sorts in the studio. And so after going back and forth and having a quick little conversation and saying that something like a group activity where students are taking on the ownership of their learning, it came up with this great idea where it's going to be a carnival logistics challenge, has it broken down way more sophisticated than I could do in a couple minutes. It has basically students given the instructions of you are the coordinator. Coordinators for a city carnival, you have a budget of $15,000. You must hire exactly 45 performers for the weekend. Here is the menu of options. These are your people that you can have. Your task is to hire at least 5 of each type, create a team of 45 performers that gets as close to 15,000 as possible without going over, and you must use standard multiplication algorithm to prove your totals for each group. It's giving you that justification. And then what I did is kind of took the next step to create the Carnival Logistics Challenge and then create a slideshow that I could present this to the class. So almost like an initiative, I'm going to have this up on the screen where they'll talk about it. And then from there, I can hand them a worksheet that it will create. Now, this has been going for about 3 or 4 minutes. The only downside to Notebook LM is that it does take a little bit longer to create the product. But of course, I can walk away, come back to this, and then you're going to see in a couple of minutes that the resource and the PowerPoints are way better than anything I've gotten from past AI bots. Okay, so took about, I would say, 10 minutes or so to get this slideshow done, but the resource is really good. So over here, you're going to see in your studio, this is going to be your created area. We can open this up and you're going to see if I open it, it's going to be a slideshow you can use in your class. So they really have great graphics. It's by far the best slideshow creator out of Gemini's suite when it comes to gems. If you're just going straight chat with Canvas, comes up with really good breakdowns. Now, you have a guide as well. So that guide is going to be available online. You can have it make into a PDF, but we can go through here, and this is going to be sent out to the students. So like, okay, you have a minimum. They can work off of this. So if you made this a document or a slideshow on the Google Classroom, they can actually fill this in. And it has them breaking down every aspect of this. So it's a little bit more creative, and it's going to be visually more appealing. So hopefully you get more engagement from your students. So this is a slideshow. It's quite in depth too. And then you have a nice little checklist over here that your student's going to work off of, and they're going to be working in the group. So you can download it over here, make it into a PowerPoint or a PDF if you want to work on it. Now over here, you also have the logistics. So this is going to be your breakdown of the activity, and then tips for you as a teacher. From here, I would go into more questions. So I could have it actually make the PDF or a worksheet for students. I can have it show me what I want. So you could see over here in the prep guide, it's actually having you work on the whiteboard. So just like building theme classrooms, it's going to have this design lab style. So that's going to be something that a teacher could present. Again, this is just one example of what it can create. If you wanted to go in here and say, okay, let's make a quiz, I'm going to tap over here. It's going to generate a quiz based off of everything we discussed in the chat, which is great. You do have to make sure you focus sometimes. So if you have multiple discussions going on within the chat, you're going to have to say, okay, go back to this lesson for 5th grade. I would like a quiz based off of this. And then it's going to be kind of coming and pulling from it. Now, right here, it says based on the 5 resources, but it is going to pull from the chat of what we want. And that's going to be a great resource as well. Other than that, it's a lot of fun to play with. I think if you use the Gemini Notebook for a personal use first, kind of read about certain activities, that would be a little bit easier for you to understand just how much it can do and then what it can create on the side, reports, stuff like that. Even like for a study tool, it's going to be something that's going to be very useful for you to learn about something really quickly. So I hope this was really informative and you enjoyed it. There'll be more videos to come about how you can use Gemini Notebook for different tasks, but I think this is a good little warm up to improve your lessons to a possibly a level 3, level 4. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.